Really strange developments taking place in one of the strangest cases we've ever covered here at Court TV. I'm talking about the Doomsday couple. There was a hearing yesterday. Take a look. Lori Vallow Daybell. There she is. You look at her there and you wonder, what's behind that mask? What is going on? Well, her attorney at the time was saying there are some emergent circumstances, Your Honor. We can't do this first appearance. And a first appearance, you just appear. And the judge tells you these are the charges. Do you have a lawyer? And then sets the date for the arraignment. It's a very simple appearance. But she wasn't ready for it. There was something happening. And it's all really focused on whatever's going on behind that mask and between those ears. That's because of this. Take a look. An order staying the case. The completed assessment, psychological assessment that is, determined that at this time the defendant, that would be Lori Daybell, is not competent to proceed. And the expert is recommending restorative treatment. She's not ready for trial. She's not competent. She doesn't know what's going on. This is a huge development in the case. You cannot proceed with a trial if you've got someone who has been deemed by the court to be incompetent. Major development. And all this taking place just at the time that she's now been indicted for murder. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who's breaking all of this news for us each and every day. Chanley, let's talk about this order first. What effect does it have? How long does it stay in effect? And what does it mean?
Well, this order is saying that this will be before the court in a hearing for him to look at this evaluation and to hear an objection from Rob Wood, the prosecutor. He wants to object to this finding from the expert. But let's take a closer look at what this order to stay the proceeding actually says. It says that on March 8th, 2021, there was an order for a competency evaluation. That's when one of the parties brings forth this possible issue, and the judge agreed. He made her evaluated, so he put a stay on the case for further proceeding. Well, a psychological assessment was conducted, and the judge has received the results of that, which you just read, and that expert determined that Lori Daybell was not competent to stand trial and recommended restorative treatment for her. And as a result, the judge put a stay on the entire proceeding. And this explains a lot because everything before this order today, Vinny, on this matter was under seal. So all the documents back and forth, the evaluation, even his order to have her evaluated back in March was under seal. So this puts a lot of those puzzle pieces together and explains why yesterday her hearing was continued in that new murder case, the indictment, and that was after an extended sidebar. So after this order to stay was posted today, a few hours later, the new judge on her new murder case also released an order saying that that case will be put on hold, if you will. It says it is ordered that pursuant to Idaho Code 18/211/212, that this case is also stayed pending determination of the issue of the defendant's competency. So all criminal matters against Lori Vallow Daybell now on hold for the judge to take up this hearing to make a final determination. I would also expect it's not the end of it. We may also have the prosecution asking for a second or probably third opinion because they worked long and hard to reach that indictment that they announced this week.
Okay, so number one, I don't believe in coincidences, but this may actually be a coincidence. The timing of all of this, because from what you just showed us and revealed to us is that this whole issue really started back in March, which is way before the grand jury was convened to look at murder charges. So it's not necessarily, oh, she's charged with murder, all of a sudden she's not competent. This was an issue before that grand jury even met.
Yeah, that's right. Several months ago, and it's been suspicious in this court file. You know, I check it multiple times a day to keep up with everything here, and there has not been any new filings in her case since March, and we've heard about status hearings, or if there has been a Zoom hearing, a lot is off the record at a sidebar, and then we don't really hear what happens, and now we know why, because a lot of these issues were happening behind the scenes, and now it seemed like the judge wanted to release this order because of what maybe happened yesterday in her initial appearance, and maybe try to explain why it was so short and why he continued it, because those exigent circumstances he was referring to has to do with the fact that this is now, her competency is now an issue.
Now, prosecutors objecting to it, right? Probably wants another evaluation done by someone else. But the original evaluation, was this do we know if this was a court-appointed expert, or was this an expert that the defense found?
This was a court-appointed expert. Under that statute I just read for you, it basically delineates the process for this. Once the judge orders an evaluation, it's a court-appointed, licensed clinical psychologist who conducted this. And then, of course, once the judge determines the final decision of whether or not she is competent, there's more steps to follow, but it allows for multiple evaluations to be done at the request of the party. So this was the initial one, the state-appointed psychologist, but we expect that they'll also request other, like a second or third opinion.
All right, but she stays confined and locked up in the interim. Is she going to stay in jail? Are they moving her to a hospital? Do we know any of this?
Yeah, so she will stay in jail. Now, the evaluation process, that can happen if it's at a different location. They can order the sheriff, the jail, to transfer her to that location for the duration, however long that evaluation is, but she returns to the jail there in Rexburg, the Madison County Women's Detention Center. Now, when the judge makes the final determination, though, that's when she would be placed in a hospital or some treatment facility for 90 days, and she'll be continually evaluated at the end of the 90 days. That's when the judge will have a forecast of her competency. Is there a chance she could be restored in the foreseeable future? That's the wording in the statute. If so, then she goes to a different facility for 180 days, and they expect her to restore. If not, then it's a different process. So this is going to be a long, elongated time. I don't know if we would ever get to a trial in her case at this point.
Yeah, there's a lot up in the air right now. But you know, in other cases, I've seen defendants who were found not competent, then they're found competent, and they're constantly being evaluated. So this could be one of those cases, or it could be all gone for her. The case against Chad Daybell, though, will continue, but I can see why prosecutors are objecting, because they want it all to be together. They don't want to split these things up. But if she's not competent and he is, then he'll probably march ahead to trial before she gets to trial.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, because his is on track. His arraignment June 9th on these new murder charges. That'll make his case up in district court. I'm sure that the prosecution, just like the other previous charges that he had, that was joint. Both Lori and Chad together. I'm sure the prosecution planned to do that for the murder charges, just for efficiency purposes. It's the same witnesses, the same evidence in the case. They're co-conspirators in the trial. So that would be difficult. They would have to maybe try it twice if it is that she is not competent and he is.
So now the other question is, okay, when did all this happen? At what point did she lose touch with reality, with whatever's going on in her life right now? Because I'm going to play the recorded phone call. This is before she gets arrested. This is between Melanie Gibb, her best friend, and Lori Vallow at the time, before she became Lori Daybell. And here they are talking to each other, and I mean, everything that she says, sounds like, there's a little bit of a break from reality here. Let's take a listen.
Oh, it just
We have
sounds
not
weird.
opened the door for darkness, Mel. Darkness is knocking on the door all the time, because that's the way dark works with the light. And I promise you that I have done nothing wrong in this case, but sometimes you have to hide in the cavity of a rock for your own life safety. And that's what the Lord requires of you sometimes. And that's how it is. And I'm sorry that's how it is, because there is a lot of darkness on the earth.
Yeah, I know.
She's been after me for zero reason, besides the darkness of Kay, which you already know she's dark.
I haven't met her enough to know if she is dark or not. I've just met her slightly, and she seemed like a normal kind of person, but then I haven't engaged with her that much, so I don't know that personally.
So you don't know about her changing the thing for herself to be the beneficiary of the policy and all that stuff. None of that's dark, right?
Well, I haven't seen those documents, so I have no way of knowing.
I've seen them on my computer.
No, I have not. I haven't even looked in on your computer before.
All right, and what I'm hearing is a mishmash of things, right? There's the reality of her and her sister-in-law not getting along, and then there's the dark forces that are out there, and God wanting you to do things. And people can believe whatever they want to believe. I mean, you know, some people say, you know, the Doomsday Cult, but maybe for them, that's their religion, their belief set. I have a problem with it when little children go missing and are dead and buried in backyards. Obviously, to me, that's a major problem, but you know, that's the difficulty here, isn't it, Chandler, with this whole case, is this doomsday prophecy, the end of the world, this talk of zombies and the darkness and everything else going on. This has been a continuum for quite some time. This isn't something new in her life. But we don't have the details of whether or not it's any different from that behavior is any different from what she's experiencing right now at this moment.
Yeah, that's true, and you're right. We've spoken to many friends and family and those who've known her for years, even before she met Chad Daybell, and saying some things that maybe were concerning about her religion. But of all the people we've talked to, there really was this turning point in her life when she did meet Chad Daybell in the fall. It was October 2018. And from then on, they said it was like a downward spiral in her beliefs. That's when they started hearing the terms like zombie, and that she herself was a resurrected being or a translated being or a god, and that she could do away with people with her powers. And we've seen the video of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, begging police on body cam to help him, to help her, that he's concerned for himself and for J.J. Vallow and her children. So, and remember, even then in early 2019, Charles Vallow had her committed for a mental evaluation, involuntary mental evaluation, and she passed that, Vinny, with flying colors.
Yeah, that's what makes this so puzzling. Like, is the way she is now any different than she was back then? I want to play for folks the last time we've seen her without a mask and talking. And you have to go back to March 6th of 2020 in court. Let's take a look.
The defendant is also present here in the courtroom. Counsel for defense, in the court pleadings, it designates Ms. Vallow, aka Ms. Daybell. How would your client like to be referred to by the court?
Mrs. Daybell, please, Your Honor.
Right.
And I remember that day, you know, the lipstick, everything else going on. She knew that JJ's grandparents were there. Her sister-in-law gave them sort of a kind of like a dirty look when she walked past them. I remember that day. And I'm wondering, the way she is right there, is that any different than how she is now? And I don't think we'll ever get an answer to it, but I'm wondering, you know, could it have gotten worse? And how much worse, and how would it be manifesting itself? Does she not talk anymore? Is she still just talking about zombies and darkness? Because that's not really a change in behavior.
Right, yeah, we don't know because she has been incarcerated all this time. We know that she does have access to a tablet, Vinny, where she could kind of like go on Zoom, I guess, and have virtual visitations to those that she wants to visit with, friends or family, if any. But other than that, it's all kept secret. I mean, the jail's not talking about her behavior, so of course her attorney's not as well. But there is something that this evaluator found in her behavior that she didn't understand the proceedings against her, the charges against her, and could not be of assistance to her counsel at this time.
And then you get to the ultimate issue, right? Which is, okay, if she ever is found competent to stand trial, does her mental state play at all in whatever her defense may be in her case? And do we know anything about that yet, or is it still too early to tell?
This is the first step. Now, if at some point in the future she's deemed competent to stand trial, then she would go to trial. Now, in Idaho, it's one of 4 states that has abolished the insanity plea, plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but there is a way to use a defendant's mental health as a defense, and you basically attack that specific intent element of whatever you're charged with. Premeditated murder, you attack that malice aforethought, that you couldn't form that intent because you thought you were killing a zombie, or whatever your defense may be. And that would be the path during the trial, and the jury could consider that and see if the state was able to prove that element beyond a reasonable doubt. It's also considered in sentencing as well, her mental health history. But given the fact that there's no insanity plea, you really have to have a battle of the experts really during the trial about whether or not she could form that mental intent element of whatever crime she's charged with.
And what's interesting, there's some aspects of her behavior that are consistent with some successful insanity cases that have covered. And it involves, because she integrates God into doing the things that she needs to do. So it comes down to, in an insanity case, state, right, where you have it is, do you know the difference between right and wrong, good and bad? And if you are killing someone thinking you're doing something good, that's when I've seen successful insanity defenses. But you don't have that per se in Idaho, which is fascinating. I mean, there's other parts of her behavior that point to she knew what she was doing was wrong by hiding it and fleeing and everything else. But wow, fascinating stuff. Channeling Painter on top of it.